How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to the Blue Shifting and welcome back to Higurashi When They Cry. So, Rika's gone missing and Satoko's gone too. They live together, but now they're both seemingly gone. They might have been vanished because the mayor got vanished after Shion confided in him and we confided in Rika and now she seems to be missing, which is implying to me that there are... So, like, I still think the big thing is, like, the families in the cult, but it might be a reality where we're seeing different, maybe, groups of people operating within the cult, maybe at disagreements. And one of the things that could be done, there's two things that were kind of hinted at the end of the last episode. The first thing was that you have the old woman, like Mion's grandma, who's like the official head of the Sonozakis, but Mion is technically kind of already stepping into those shoes. We also know that unless she's like really super lying, it feels like there might be a division of intents within the organization, which also could be explained by the difference between the old lady, and Mion. If they're both operating independently, giving different orders, and they're being followed like perfectly, then it could be that division we're looking at. It's not going to get any better. We know that the spiral is beginning. Also, gotta say, last episode was really long. I don't think I'm going to try and go for that long this time, which means this chapter is probably going to be split up into two. I don't have the energy or the time to do a super, super long episode again right now. I know it might be unfortunate, but hey, I can only give so much, and I have a lot of other things on my plate, unfortunately, so... I mean, I'm falling behind on a lot of stuff. I have patron casts that I haven't done in a long time. I need to find time for. I've got... the Baldur's Gate randomized run that I've been recording and doing that's been falling behind, further and further behind, just because it's hard for me to find the time. Because it's not just like pure time, it's also just like I'm balancing sleep, I'm balancing work, and also like personal recreation. Like I need to be able to just have some unwinding time, which this helps. This is kind of unwinding, but there is a level of performance is there, and there's also the editing that goes into it. And you put all that together, it's like kind of relaxing, but it's not really like I unlock my brain and just kind of vegetate for a little bit. I need some of that too. And so I try and squeeze in those things whenever I can. And then there's just normal life responsibilities. So unfortunately, it just means sometimes I'm going to have to only cut things short, but I'm still going to be consistent. I think consistency is more important than like making like long, perfectly formed videos. I'm going to do the best I can, obviously, but just understand. I only got so much of you to spread around. So we're going to jump in. We're starting the next chapter, and I guess what we're really going to see is when we wake up, potentially the results, and what are the effects this is going to have on the group specifically. I think we're going to start seeing the fractures, because our group is going to be effectively shattered from this point on. And we're going to see how this all pans out. So, let's continue. Looks like our parents carried us up to our room. I saw a ceiling I was familiar with. Though I was groggy from sleep, I did notice that it was in my futon, like I was every morning. I looked at my clock, and despite having turned in so late last night, I had woken at precisely the same moment I always did. I'm so low on sleep, but I guess you can't really get up. You can rarely get up at the same time every day. The secrets of the human body never cease to amaze me. It is pretty cool. It's circadian rhythm, and our bodies kind of like adjust and adapt to it. It works really well. It's as someone who now works on third shift, I work through the night. Kind of amazing how well I can fall asleep during the day and how easily I wake up and stay awake through the whole night after like a few months practice. If I went back to sleep like this, I would definitely not be waking up again. I spurred myself on and slipped out of my futon. Mom asked me about last night at breakfast. Apparently, we too had gotten a call asking if we knew where Rika-chan and Satoko were. My mom vaguely understood that something serious was happening.
じゃあ、ゆうべはお友達とみんなで夜遅くまで探してたの?
Yeah.
3時くらいまでかな。うん。
結局見つかったの?
No.
そのリカちゃんとサトコちゃんは?
Crunch. I wearily bit into my toast. I really didn't have any. It really didn't have any taste. Just then, we heard the chime go ding dong. I looked up at my clock and saw it was about 5 minutes past my regular meeting time with Rena. It was her at the door.
おはよう。少しは眠れたかな。
何時間寝れたんだろうな。多分、鶏の足でも数えられるくらいだと思う。
That's a clever way to answer that. Rena seemed pretty sleep deprived as well. There was something missing from her usual spirit.
学校、行くか。
うん、その方がね、きっといいと思うの。
She said, smiling, albeit stiffly. Rena was probably worrying her heart out about those two as well. Even so, she wanted to go to school.
今日お休みしたら、きっとケイチくんは病んで寝込んじゃうと思う。私、そんなの嫌だから。
She's kind of got a point, but I also feel like the downside is that when you have someone missing in your life, especially when it's ambiguous like this, going places where you're reminded of them, I think is kind of scary. To see them and be like, this is where they were, they should be here, why aren't they here? It's terrifying, really. So yeah. I don't know. I don't think there's a good way to go about this at all, but I also do think that at least seeing other people, being able to group up, that is important in times of crisis.
だから、一緒に学校に行こう。
わかった。ちょっと待っててくれ。すぐ支度するから。
I was just a little bit happy about Rena mustering that much consideration for me. I gotta say, I know that Rena's probably not going to stay the sane, happy person that we see here, because we know what lurks deep underneath those very happy eyes. But it's kind of nice that she's not the main antagonist in this one, because she's such a source of strength and consistency. So it is kind of nice, at least for the minute. We went to the place where we'd usually meet up with Mion, but she was nowhere to be found. We were a little bit late today, so we thought she'd be waiting for us.
みーちゃん、さすがに今日は起きられないかもね。
But you gotta remember, unlike us, she's had 2 really late nights, and as a coordinator, she likely stayed up way later than as late as anybody.
あ、そうか。あいつにとっては昨日だけじゃないんだよな。一昨日の晩も村長さんを探して徹夜してるんだよな。
We waited for a bit. Time passed until we got to the point where it was okay for us to go out alone, and we exchanged glances.
どうする？もう少し待つか？
At that point, my brain, which had finally been woken up by the morning air, recalled the ominous words Ooishi-san had left for me with last night. The leader of the 3 families were disappearing one after the other. And next, it might be the Sonozaki leader. Could Mion have... No, that couldn't be.
行こう。今日は寝かせておいてあげようよ。
Rena gave me a pat on the back.
ミオン、本当にいるよな。
何か言ったかな？
あ、いや、独り言。行こうぜ。
The 2 of us headed to school by ourselves. On the way, we saw a bunch of our classmates accompanied by their parents. It even looked like some of them were being taken to school by car. Yeah, with other kids gone missing now, it's like parents are going to get really paranoid. Surprisingly, the principal is also standing watch at the school gate. I'd never seen that before.
おはようございます。
おはようございます。
The principal is bowing to our classmates' guardians. The wooden sword leaning next to him was a little ominous.
前原くん、おはよう。竜宮くん、おはよ
Ohio.
おはようございます。
う。先生から大切なお話があるから、すぐに教室に入るように。いいかね？
Rena and I said nothing. The madness that only existed that night had finally crawled out into the sunlight. That's what it felt like. God, so depressing. It's so depressing already.
皆さん、おはようございます。
The hushed conversations that had been spreading for a while now all disappeared like an illusion the moment our teacher walked in the door. Silence dominated the classroom. The principal came in with our teacher as well. This was clearly not a normal morning.
まず、校長先生から大切なお話があります。校長先生、どうぞ。
The principal cleared his throat and approached the DS.
もう知っている生徒もおるだろ
The classroom was dead silent. Everyone was staring at Rika-chan and Satoko's empty seats. The principal briefly and simply declared that Rika-chan and Satoko had gone missing. There wasn't a single person in the classroom who didn't already know. There seemed to be many, however, who couldn't accept it as truth. It had been confirmed to them now by the principal's words. There were sobs throughout the classroom, and I heard a kid crying. They steadily spread throughout the whole room. The big-hearted principal wasn't able to keep his cool either.
はい、皆さん注目注目。今日から当分の間、 登下校は保護者の方と一緒に行います。
Gotcha.
保護者の方の都合がつきにくい生徒は、集団での登下校とします。プリントを作りましたので、よく読み、保護者の方にも必ず見せてください。
Things probably will be the same for us since we already kind of came in a group.
いいですね。
The teacher's voice was a little abrasive. Not even she could conceal the strain she felt from this unprecedented abnormal situation. They should just have canceled school today. However, Rena told me the school was like a nursery for the students whose parents both worked. Some of them wouldn't want the school to be canceled. That's true. Like, I imagine that's something that came out really hard in COVID times, was when all the schools closed and everyone was doing school at home. It really put a strain on anybody whose household had two working parents, which is, I think, most homes nowadays.
では、授業を始めます。委員長は、お休みですね。
That's terrifying.
では日直、号令起立
The feeling of wanting to maintain the everyday atmosphere, even if only in school, precisely because our lives have been messed up, was something that I agreed with at this point. Routine can be a decent blanket to keep things relatively stable. Like, when things are upheaving, maintaining any type of structure that you're used to having can give you like a little extra breathing room to kind of process emotion. As for the teacher, who always had her lunch in the staff lounge, she ate in the classroom today. I had a laugh at her cute curry bento, which was just a rumor until now, but there was nothing to laugh with me. There's nobody to laugh with me. Rena brought her chair and lunch over to my seat. Today, it was only the two of us. Oh, that right there is horrifyingly depressing. The fact that we didn't need to drag any other desks over was sad.
眠いね。
ああ、
Me too.
でも、もうそんなに気にならなくなったよ。むしろ今寝れるくらいのずぶとい神経が羨ましい。
そうかもね。
I was sleepy this morning, but my drowsiness had dissipated after coming to school and constantly feeling the incredible tension. Rena's bento box didn't have its usual luster. That was to be expected. Rena was up for a long time last night, too. She wouldn't have had time to make her lunch beforehand, since it's not likely like she would have gotten up early this morning.
遠慮なくつっつけよ。今日は素直に俺の弁当の方が立派なのを認めろ。
じゃあ、遠慮なくいただくね。ああ、しそチーズのちくわ巻きなんて面白いな。
Oh, right, because his mom would have made his, so his has that fresh homemade feel that hers probably lacks today.
レナのだって、今日のはレトルトだろうけど、なかなかうまいぞ。
I realized the two of us were desperately trying to brighten the afternoon mood to its usual level as much as we could. I looked around the classroom, and it seemed like they were the only ones trying to do so, surrounded as we were by gloominess. I think I've mentioned this a couple times before, but I remember... One thing that's hard is that one of the first things that falls down on the wayside when you're restricted with grief or pain or I'd even say when your expectations have been dashed and you're kind of struggling and floundering. Because here's the thing. It sounds weird to be preachy, but just hear me out on this. If/when, because it's going to happen, you feel like something in your life is crumbling around you and you feel like everything's falling apart, or you feel just really isolated for some reason. Maybe you feel betrayed from a friend, recently gone through a breakup, or just for whatever reason, you're just feeling extra lonely. I highly recommend something, and it's kind of highlighted here. Because one of the big problems here is that the way that they've been dealing with their own stress and anxiety up until now has involved, club meetings, playing together with friends, laughing and joking with one another. And likely your life is filled with ways that you process stress or deal with high emotions or relax. And oftentimes those events can be related to friends and family. So if that support group for some reason is disrupted, maybe a wedge is formed between your friends. Maybe you've moved away and you can't. Maybe, like I said, the breakup has happened. Or it could even fall as simply as you are struggling to motivate yourself to do the things you would do, like your hobbies or your passions or the other things that bring you personal joy. It's really easy to be so distraught by a major upheaval that you find yourself unmotivated or unable to do things. Like these two. My first reaction here is like they're gloomy, so why don't they play a game? But if they try to play a game, all it's going to do is highlight how alone they are. And it's very likely to have the opposite effect. But I've watched people go through this, and I think sometimes when you're in times like these, you need to force yourself to do the things that you usually use for fun. I had a good friend who went through a really terrible breakup, and the breakup was actually so severe that her closest friends, who, you know, she'd been friends with for years, ever since like grade school, they didn't like how things had panned out for whatever reason, and they kind of took the side of her ex. And they kind of distanced themselves from her, leaving her basically alone for making a decision about a relationship that she didn't feel like she wanted to continue anymore. And that was basically because they liked the guy, and when she gave her reasoning, they didn't agree with it. They thought it was not valid, even though it's, you know, her relationship. And I remembered kind of watching her, someone who cared deeply about her, and watching her slowly kind of start to consume herself. Basically, she was overly stressed. She was struggling to sleep. She started grinding her teeth. And I remember one of the things that made us friends was that we both liked writing, making stories and telling stories. And I remember asking her one day, and I was like, hey, have you worked on your story recently? I want to hear what you've been doing, or progress, because we would share stories with each other. And she admitted, she's like, I actually haven't written that for weeks. I haven't done anything, which is really odd for her because she was a prolific writer. She would do it pretty much every day. And then find out for weeks, pretty much ever since the breakup, she hadn't touched it, or even leading up to it. And I remember I realized that like there was something very wrong with that. And so I grabbed her by the shoulders and literally said, no, you need to do that. I need you to go home this weekend and you need to promise me you're going to sit in front of your computer, you're going to make yourself work on it. I don't care if it's like 5 words. You need to do something. You need to do it because it's important to you and it matters. And it was a huge gamble because that's a really rough thing to do when you're one of the last people standing next to somebody, is to get in their face and to make a demand of them. But she said, okay. And she went home, and I didn't hear from her all weekend. I was terrified I'd overstepped my bounds, but when she came back, she had a big smile on her face, and she said it was exactly what she needed. That it was hard, but when she started, it all just started flowing, and it was so comforting and so familiar, and it all just worked out. And then, no, it didn't make her problems go away, but she processed them better. She made motivation. So it's like, despite the fact that it might feel like a terrible idea, I think Rena and Keiichi should play a game together. They should keep the spirit of the club alive, and that should be the motivation. To be like, hey, we're not all here together, but I think they'd be sad if we just sat around doing nothing because we missed them. So let's do this, because it's something that helps us bring joy. So in real life, sometimes you have to force yourself to get back into the things that you love, even if it's not quite the same. But I think that you'd find that in the end, it would still be more of a comfort than a not. So take that for a grain of salt, but it's my big rant when it comes to like helping yourself and family. Your hobbies aren't just something you do for fun. They're an important part of how you keep yourself happy and healthy. You can't let them control your life or overwhelm your life, but they're important. You need to cling to them. I cling to this. This channel has helped me through some of my darkest days because it was something consistent that I love to make, and it brought me joy. Even if it's not like commercially successful, it's more than plenty successful for what I need in my life, and that's wonderful. So don't give up on your dreams and passions just because the inspiration seems to flicker out or the light seems to go out around you. It can be a source of light in and of itself.
こうして2人だけでお弁当をつつき合ってると、なんだか、なんだかだよね。
Like a date, huh? Our laughter grew quieter. I was the first one to mess up.
ごめん。悪かった。
いいよ。仕方ないよ。
Our chopsticks both stopped moving. We couldn't keep it up anymore.
リカちゃんとサトコ、どこに行ったんだろうな。
Those words might have sounded too miserable. Everyone was thinking it, using roundabout ways to address the topic, but I came right out and said it. I heard Rena catch her breath.
昨日ね、ケイチくんがいなくなってる間に、いろいろと話を聞いてたから、レナの知ってる限りを話すね。
Okay.
昨べはすまなかった。頼む。
At the time, since they arrived for support, Rena was helping the Ladies' Society cook the miso soup we had. They reported all the information the villagers had gathered, and Rena said she overheard it.
でも、結局何もわからなかったんだろ。学校が終わってから家に帰って、二人で自転車に乗ってどこかへ行ったらしいということ以外は、
Now
全く。
here's the thing I want to know. Did they find the bikes? Even though they didn't find them, if they found the bikes, that could tell us something. Mion had told me yesterday. We had no clues.
うん、警察の人も、家に帰ってからすぐに自転車で遊びに行ったんだろうって言ってる。家に帰ってからすぐに自転車で遊びに行くところと言ったら、町かもしれないでしょ？だから、沖宮の町でいなくなったんじゃないかって結論になってるみたい。警察は明るくなってから、捜査範囲を沖宮にも広げるって言ってた。
In town. It makes sense that why we couldn't find them even though we searched all of Hinamizawa then. Still, something didn't fit. I had no basis for thinking that, just a gut feeling. I revealed something to Rika-chan that was likely very important to her that day. Then Rika-chan told me to leave it to her. And then, what did she say? Oh right, if she didn't work hard, then something bad might happen to the dog, too. With all the talk of dogs and cats, I still didn't have the faintest idea what she really meant, but it might have been Rika-chan's way of saying that this was a race against time. Dang it! I'd selfishly pushed my anxiety on Rika-chan and then tried to run away. When I thought about it, I shouldn't have run back then. I should have asked her more about the dogs and cats. Well, the dogs were meant to be the pursuers, right? And Mion might have been the dog. But she was worried about something happening to Mion then. The more I think back on it, I really screwed up. Anyway, I didn't think Rika-chan was in a situation where she would just go off and play somewhere. Of course, I didn't have any evidence or conviction to base that on. It's just a hunch.
町なんかに行くわけないと思うんだ。
ケイチ君もそう思う？レナもそう思うよ。リカちゃんもサトコちゃんも、ひなみ沢でいなくなったに違いないの。
I looked back at Rena and startled. I could hear the conviction in those words. Without replying to my gaze, she took her bento box and went to the hallway.
お弁当箱を洗ってくるね。
She timed it in a way that broke off the conversation. Suddenly, I got the feeling that the next thing she had to say would be hard to say aloud in the classroom. I hurriedly grabbed my bento box and followed her. Oh, look at him picking up on subtle clues. That's a new one. Rena didn't go to the kitchenette, but rather to the water fountains out back where students seldom went. The water flowed out and onto our bento boxes. During that time, Rena didn't say a word. Then, after making sure there were no other students around, she finally opened her mouth to speak.
リカちゃんとサトコちゃんが街に遊びに行っていなくなったなんて。
Yeah, it doesn't feel right, does it?
なんだか腑に落ちなくて。私なりにいろいろ聞いたり調べたりしたの。
Oh, look at this. Rena the investigator.
聞いた？何を？
婦人会のおばさんたちに、昨日のお味噌汁、お豆腐がいっぱい入ってたでしょ？富田豆腐店のおばあちゃんも来てたの。
Tomita Tofu Shop. Oh, I remember. That was one of the stores on the road leading to the hospital. Those huge lumps of tofu dancing in the bathtubs like cistern always looked nice and refreshing.
おばあちゃんね、昨日学校の帰り道に、さとこちゃんがお店に寄ってお豆腐を買っていったのを覚えてたの。
Interesting.
豆腐？学校の帰り道にだろ？それが何か手がかりになるのか？
いいから聞いて。
Yeah, hang on. Here's the thing. So she bought tofu. Did we find any tofu in the house?
リカちゃんの家に行った時のこと、覚えてるかな？
Rena stepped away from the sinks and spread her arms wide to recreate the space of Rika-chan's room.
ガス台にお鍋がかけてあって、その中にお味噌汁が入ってたの。中にはお豆腐が、多分、一丁の半分くらい入ってたと思う。
That implies that they ate dinner, so they would have had to leave after that.
残りの半分は冷蔵庫の中にあったの。 冷ややっこにするつもりだったんだね。お皿に開けて、ラップがかけてあった。
As Rena explained, she walked around as if she were really going through Rika-chan's room.
でもレナ、それが何だって言うんだ？
No, it matters that it shows intent, it shows timing. They would have had to go home and prepare the miso soup. Miso soup's not super complex, but it still takes time to make. You would have gone home after getting the tofu, you would have cooked it together, then they would have eaten the hot portion and put away the cold portion. There's also the laundry that I talked about, how it had been pulled from the hangings, but it hadn't been folded properly, implying that they might have left with the intention of coming back soon. So then they left without time to be able to go into town, and they never came back.
ケイチ君、お味噌汁のお豆腐って本当に最後の最後に入れるんだよ。つまり、お料理してたリカちゃんか、もしくはサトコちゃんは、お夕飯の時間の直前まであそこに立って料理をしていたことになるの。
Exactly.
夕食の時間の直前まで？
Wasn't everyone saying their bikes weren't around, so they must have gone somewhere to play by themselves?
三角コーナーのゴミを見たら、すごく不吉祥だった。食事やお弁当はほとんどリカちゃんが作ってるんだけど、だからその晩はサトコちゃんがお料理したんだね。
Okay, so maybe Rika-chan wasn't there.
それってつまりサトコに関しては遊びに行かず夕食の準備をしてたってことなのか？
So then what if this is the case? What if after school, Satoko said, I'm going to go get tofu, and Rika said, I need to go take care of something, I'll meet you at dinner time. Satoko grabs the tofu, goes to make miso soup, and then she makes the food, waits for Rika, doesn't show up. She eats her portion, half. Rika doesn't show up. She puts Rika's portion in the fridge and goes to look for her, maybe knowing where Rika was planning to go. And when she got there, she disappeared too.
それで私、炊飯釜も見てみたの。炊飯釜には2人分のご飯が炊けていた。
Rice for two still in there.
ってことは2人分の夕飯は作ったけど2
That's
人とも夕飯は食べなかった。
that's even stranger then. But then why was some of it stored?
そういうことか。
Rena nodded.
それで次に冷蔵庫の中も見てみたの。そうしたら残り半分のお豆腐で作った冷ややっこがあったの。それだけじゃない。お夕飯用に作ったおかずも何皿かあって、それらにはみんなラップがされていた。
Oh, so she prepared dinner and then went out somewhere, maybe to go find Rika, to bring her back to eat. Usually plastic wrap things that you can have leftovers for the next day. My mom does that all the time too, using them as breakfast or lunch.
そう。ラップって食べ残しとかを取っておくためにするものだよね。冷蔵庫に入れたということは、少なくともその晩のうちには食べないつもりだったということ。
Okay.
そういうことになるのか？
I mean, yeah, why would you wrap it up in plastic if you didn't intend to eat it?
ケイチ君、もっとよく考えて。お夕飯を全く手つけずでラップしてあったんだよ。どういうことだと思う？
It means they prepared a dinner that they didn't eat, but then the food was put away meticulously. That almost implies like they were there to eat dinner, then something happened that pulled them away, and someone went to the trouble of putting it away. Either they did because they realized they had to head out soon, or somebody else did trying to make it look natural.
じゃあ夕食を食べる必要がなくなったわけだ。外食とか出前とかで。
それも突然にね。前もって決まっていたらお料理なんかしない。そしてお夕食は2人分用意されていた。
That's very strange.
つまりさとこちゃんは2人で食事ができると本当に直前までそう思って料理をしていたということなの。
Maybe the next best thing I could think of is that they might have been invited to go eat somewhere by somebody they didn't want to turn down.
じゃあ2人で遊びに行っていなくなったというのは間違いじゃないか。
Exactly, they would have planned on that.
そう。つまりいなくなったのはお夕飯ができて夕食に至るまでの本当にわずかな時間。多分7時頃くらい。
そんな時間に食事もせずに2人はどこへ行ったんだ？
当然そこに行き着くよね。ケイチ君、覚えてるかな？折りたたみ机が置いてあって、その上にお醤油や箸立てなんかが置いてあったのを。
There might have been something like that. I didn't remember.
お醤油の小瓶ね、空っぽだったの。もう一滴も入ってなかった。
That's odd.
これじゃあ冷ややっこは美味しくないよね。
Yeah, you definitely want to have soy sauce on there.
だから私、流しの下にある醤油の大瓶を探してみたの。
よくそんなところにあるって知ってるな。
私もリカちゃんの家に行ってお料理したことあったから。
Rena cleared her throat, then her face returning to a serious expression.
でね、流しの下を開けてみたら、醤油の大瓶が瓶ごとなかったの。
Why would they take that?
醤油の大瓶がないと、どういう意味になるんだ？
ここから先は全部、レナの想像だからね。
So we're stepping away from facts and stepping into theory.
だから最後まで、口を挟まずに聞いていてね。
Can you do it, Keiichi? Can you listen? Last night, Satoko was making dinner like normal. Rika-chan usually watched TV until the food was ready, and she probably was laying down watching a variety show or something. Satoko put the tofu in the miso soup, and right when dinner was about to be ready, she noticed they were out of soy sauce. So Rika-chan, who had nothing to do, brought a big bottle of soy sauce to the neighbor's house to borrow theirs.
俺、ご近所付き合いってよくわからないんだが、醤油なんかって分けてもらえるものなのか？
I mean, it's a little odd, but I'd say mostly, yeah. Especially back in the 80s and 90s, that probably was a lot more of a common thing. But, A, they're children who are basically orphans. I feel like most people would have a lot of sympathy for that. B, they probably know them really well, and especially Rika being who she is, she could charm the socks off of a pirate. I'm pretty sure that she'd be able to talk anybody into doing a donation like that. Plus, this is equivalent to something like borrowing a cup of sugar or borrowing a few eggs. Even I've had to do that before, where I've gone to a neighbor saying like, look, I'm halfway through cooking a meal. I realize that we ran out of eggs. Can I please have a couple eggs? I can pay you back or give you back some eggs as soon as I get back to the store. It's done it before. People have indulged me. It's a thing that happens. So that's very reasonable.
うん。Hinamizawa ではそんなに珍しいことじゃないよ。
So Rika-chan rode her bike out to get some soy sauce. But she went by herself. No matter how long Satoko waited, though, Rika-chan didn't come back. So then Satoko called up the house where Rika-chan was going. She never showed up. Would Rika happen to be imposing on you? Something like that. Then the other person must have replied to something like this.
うちに食事の用意があるから、さとこちゃんもいらっしゃい。リカちゃんはもう食べてるよって。きっと、そんな感じで呼び出したんだと思う。
Oh, dang, that's terrifying, actually. Satoko called Rika a few names in private, wrapped up the dinner she'd made for them. She put it in the fridge so they could use it for breakfast and lunch the next day. Then Satoko got on her bike too, and headed to the house where Rika-chan was.
でも、すでにこの時点でおかしいの。食事ってね、突然やってきた人に振る舞えるほど多めに作るものじゃないんだよ。
Some people do, but I could see that being a little strange. A veteran housewife would normally make so much food that she could feed 2 extra people.
たまたま偶然作りすぎたことだって考えられるだろう。
それでも、絶対に考えられない。
I think the most important question we need to ask is, who's the neighbor that Rika would be most likely to talk to? Who's the closest to the shrine who would also have soy sauce that Rika would feel comfortable approaching for it? Well, frankly, she probably could approach anybody, so who would be the most likely person she would go to in a time like that? I don't know who lives close to that shrine, so we need to figure out who that is. Rena flatly denied me.
だって、リカちゃんは、さとこちゃんが頑張って作ったお夕飯がもうできてることを知ってるんだよ。
That is a good point. Rika probably would have denied food, saying that we've already worked hard to make our own.
どんなにお夕飯を勧められたって、さとこちゃんのお夕飯を無駄にするようなことをするわけがない。
That was only circumstantial evidence as Rena's guesswork, but I think she's right. I think Rika would likely not want to do that unless she could at least communicate herself to Satoko. Even so, it was all extremely convincing. It was the only ray of hope we had to topple the situation before bereft of clues.
じゃあ、レナ、リカちゃんはどこへ醤油をもらいに行ったんだ？
There was the heart of it. It would have to be somewhere she was comfortable asking for soy sauce, and somewhere where Satoko wouldn't think it suspicious that she'd be invited for dinner. So, who was it? Rena slowly shook her head.
レナの推理はここまで。あくまでも想像だからね。警察の人とかには内緒にしておいてね。
隠すことはないんじゃないか。仮に半分しか会ってないとしても、きっとヒントにはなると思うぞ。
I think Rena knows the answer and she's like nervous about it.
ケイチ君、これって、ひなみざわの人を疑うって意味だよ。確信もないのに、村の人を疑えない。
She's got a good point there. You realize how dangerous the town can get if you just start throwing accusations around? I saw a few girls coming over to rinse their bento boxes. We're gonna cut the conversation short there, return to the classroom. I stayed there alone, my body bathed in the lively voices of the cicadas. Let's think about this. In my own way, Rena had barely any information to go on, yet she'd reasoned out that much. So there should be something only I, who knew far more than Rena did, could deduce. Ooishi-san said the last night too, but the incident was definitely occurring within Hinamizawa. Rena might not have wanted to believe it, but it's basically a given that the culprit is someone in the village. The trigger for everything was when the four of us were trespassing in the forbidden storehouse. Somebody saw us go in there. For the culprits, breaking the taboo was a crime punishable by death. So that night, Tomitake-san and Takano-san were sacrificed. There were two left. Shion and myself. However, before the culprits bore their fangs on Shion and me, they went after the mayor, whom Shion had confessed her sin. Next, they went for Rika-chan, whom I'd confessed my sin. Then what about Satoko? Just a stray bullet? Okay. I have a theory. I have a thought. So remember, I've said before, I think that political motivation is the main reason for the disappearances since the dam incident. That they've been used as a political tool or means of big political power, right? So, think about this. What if this is a betrayal within the Sonozaki family? It's clear with Shion's introduction into the story that not everyone within the Sonozakis is entirely convinced about the whole thing, especially the rigorous, probably the family, like the head of family being selected heretically, also about it being beyond just a mafia. They might see it as pure mafia and not religious at all, right? So there's probably tension there between the practical, temporal people and the curse-minded people. So you have division within the family and even the other families, right? So there's motivation to A, make sure Sonozaki stays on top, and B, to make sure that the people who are in power are the people who are going to keep the family strong. So somebody is on the ground and sees the four people leaving the shack. This person lives close enough to the shack to not only be able to see that, but also to be able to be close enough for Rika to go visit. Then the next thing I'm thinking about here is this idea that if there's members of the Sonozaki family that don't like the current makeup, aka the grandma and Mion being in charge, right? What if they use this to their advantage? So they know four people came out of the shack. What do they know about them? Oh, it's the two outsiders, Tomitake-san and Takano-san. They're eliminated right away. But there were two others. Maybe they're vague about those. Maybe they hide what they know about that, right? Or they don't even admit what they know about it. They kind of leave it vague on purpose or by design. But if you saw them from a distance, you'd see two smaller people. One of whom, if you got a decent look, is Shion, who looks just like Mion. So, you decide that you're going to utilize that and intentionally interpret that as being vague in order to target specific people. But there's a catch. The mayor approaches the group to tell them, hey, Shion admitted to me that she's the one that went in, but it was just a mistake. She was enticed to go in by the two that have already been punished. We should leave them be. Well, they can't allow that because now if they have someone confess who was a trespasser and give excuse for them, they can't utilize that anymore to bring about their political ends. So they make the mayor vanish. Now, is he gone forever, dead? Maybe. Or is he simply gone away until they can enact their full plan? Perhaps. But then they have another problem. Rika also appears and says the same kind of thing and gets targeted for it. Now, here's the other idea too. Could you justify that they failed to lock the cage. Like they changed the lock previously and that's a failing. Yes. But could you also more easily say, hey, there were two other people who went into the shed. We couldn't see them very clearly. But it is odd that not only was the lock changed at the behest of the mayor and Rika, but the mayor and Rika then came forward and said that they had gone into the shed. And thus they confessed that they were the ones who allowed it to happen. And that makes them guilty, so they get vanished. All I'm saying is that they might be using some ambiguity to bring about the removal of key players who could be threats to their power. And you could argue too that if they could even just take that step back. What if Rika and the mayor, who have too much information, are vanished under the pretense that they contributed to the problem, but the real vanishing still has to occur. But they can change the targets a bit. Keiichi probably is still going to be targeted, but what if instead of targeting Shion, who is kind of not playing the political games, they use it to target Mion, implying that she allowed people to go in because she went in with them. And she and Shion look identical. So you could even say, did you see Mion go into the shed? Other people could say yes. Again, why get rid of the mayor? Because he could corroborate that it was Shion, not Mion. That might be what the motivation is. They got rid of the mayor because they had a good opportunity. They got rid of Rika because they could use her as a scapegoat, maybe saying that she either allowed it to happen or was, they could say she went in instead of Keiichi, using her as a sacrificial lamb to get rid of the Furude influence over the shrine. And then they can finally do a final target on Mion, using Shion and the connection they have as the link to try and prove that Mion was the one at fault. That's my current running theory. Sorry that was so long, but I had to say it, so here we go. By itself, Rika-chan was being sacrificed after I told her everything was mortifying. But Satoko, who was sacrificed for no reason, wasn't that all the more regrettable? Everything was my fault. Who would be the next to disappear? Would it be Shion and me next time? Why weren't the culprits going for Shion and me right away, though? If they had enough power to erase the mayor like Rika-chan, why not just get rid of Shion and me? Again, that's my motivation. I think they're using the fact that two other people went in, and they're going to proxy in people who they prefer to get rid of. AKA, I think they're going to try and get rid of Mion. If they went for us, well, I wouldn't like it, but I could still tolerate it. What I couldn't forgive was them getting rid of those whom we confessed to. Now that I think about it, yesterday Shion said something alarming. She felt like someone was watching her. So then, was someone watching me as well? Strangely though, I hadn't felt like anything like that until now. Even though I'm at the root cause of everything, I had never once felt that impression. Well, if it's Rena who's watching you, then you are being watched. It's just friendly. Maybe that was simply because Shion was more cautious than me and I was just careless? Yes. That's another story though. Let's go back on track. Why weren't the culprits going after Shion and me? I felt like that's where the key to this lay. Could it be... Was I making a big assumption that I shouldn't have been? I thought, but I couldn't come up with an answer. I think it is. I do think it's like they're using it as an excuse. They saw 4 people, and they're able to choose who the other 2 people are. The one thing I understood was that I was a concerned party to this case. And that had a duty to watch over it until everything got resolved. I heard the ring of the bell declaring the end of lunch break. Would somebody else disappear tonight? If nobody else did, then I wanted them to get rid of me tonight for sure. And put an end to all this. Shion's hysterical voice on the phone last night came back to mind. They'd planned to murder those close to us first, make us as miserable as possible, and only then would they kill us.
前原君、昼休みは終わりであるぞ。教室に戻りなさい。
At the principal's urging, I returned to the classroom, which was quiet as the streets at night. There were a lot of parents picking up their children after school. It was just like a kindergarten. The students whose parents didn't come went home as a group. We left school with everyone else following the assigned route. Even while leaving, nobody said anything funny. They all looked like exhausted mountaineers silently marching through the mountains. As we went, one left, then another, and in the end it was just Rena and me. I was supposed to escort Rena all the way to her house, but she declined.
本当にいいのか？一人じゃ不用心だぞ。
レナを送った後、一人で帰るケイイチくんだって、 同じくらい不用心だよ。
She's got a good point there.
まだ明るいんだもの。大丈夫。
そうか。じゃあ、気をつけてな。
あれあれ、警察の人じゃないかな。
Oh no. Rena pointed towards my house. There was a car stopped in front of it. From outside the car came Ooishi-san. He must have been waiting for my return to ambush me. Ooishi started walking over to wearing that annoying grin.
レナはもう行きな。あいつに絡まれると長い。
でも、どうして警察の人が圭一君に用があるんだろう。
Rena's a good person. Even when I make a fuss over Rika-chan's disappearance, she never asked me why I did. She could have been suspecting me ever since then, and that would have been okay. Even so, she still hadn't asked me anything. She didn't try to pressure me into revealing the truth.
俺は犯人じゃない。
そんなの知ってるよ。
でも、事件に何の関わりもないとは言い切れない。
Rena simply listened, smiling like she always did. Even though I had insinuated I was related to the incident, she didn't look at me as though she were looking at something dirty.
今度話すよ。
待ってるね。
じゃあ、早く行きな。
Rena gave me a slight bow and trotted away, leaving me alone with Ooishi-san, who walked over.
どうもどうも。
Hi.
お帰りなさい、前原さん。
どうも。
ご家族はお留守みたいですね。いやはや困っていたんですよ。
He came all the way to my house. I could only thank my good fortune that my parents were absent. Since neither of them was around at this hour, they'd probably be back late.
親父の仕事の関係で出かけてるんだと思います。帰りは遅いと思いますよ。
そうですか。それは好都合です。親御さんに変な思いをさせずに済みます。
Great. Ooishi-san pushed me back and prompted me to walk. Pushed my back and prompted me to walk. Seemed like he wanted me to get into the car.
警
Man,
察に連行するんですか？
that'd be such a bad idea if he weren't a police officer. I wasn't the culprit, but I was the cause of everything. It wouldn't be weird if he wanted to investigate me. That kind of gave me a resigned feeling.
いえいえ、立ち話もなんですから、車の中でお話ししようってだけですよ。さあ、どうぞどうぞ。
He opened the back door and urged me inside. If I got in, I wouldn't have a very easy time getting out. If I said no, however, the man might really handcuff me and take me away. I couldn't refuse. I could only accept in good grace. Inside the car had been cooled too much by the air conditioner, and there was a rusty smell coming from the filter, which might have been cleaned only rarely.
ありゃ、冷えすぎます？切りましょうか。
He turned off the engine, and it suddenly became quiet. The voices of the Higurashi, with all their cool loneliness, snuck inside. Kawa, 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 kawa. Sounded to me like a chorus of voices lamenting my exorbitant punishment for having harbored such foolish curiosity. For a few moments, while listening to the voices, I myself lamented the days that had been twisted and distorted since that night. Ooishi-san, as if waiting for me to voluntarily begin talking, lit a cigarette and listened to the hot Higurashi. The silence became deafening, and I was the one who folded first.
捜査の方はどうなってるんですか？
捜査？何のですか？最近はいっぱいやりすぎて、どれのことやら。
Gosh darn it, he's annoying me more this chapter than he did last time.
全部です。
いいですよ。本当は報道管制の敷かれた秘密捜査なんですが、あなたには特別に聞かせてあげましょう。じゃあ、最初の事件からいきます。
Go for it. The freak deaths of Tomotaka-san and Takuro-san the night of Watanagashi.
こっちはお恥ずかしいかな。さっぱり進展なしです。
At this point, are we surprised?
まずは富武さん。集団で暴行を受けた形跡はあるのですが、自分の喉をかき破るなんて異常な死に方の説明がつかないんです。
So the method of death was exactly the same.
何らかの薬物中毒を疑っているんですが、
高野さんはどんな感じなんです？
同じくさっぱりです。焼死死体は検視が非常に困難でして、首を絞められた後にガソリンをかけられたんじゃないかと見ています。管轄が岐阜県さんでね。あちらさん、自分たちの縄張りの事件だからってあんまり協力的じゃないんですよ。おっと、これは関係ない話ですね。
So the police don't know anything about the fact that the victims died inexplicably.
ですが、 犯行時間はおおむねお祭りが終わった直後だろうと見ています。高野さんの方はちょっとあやふやですが、富武さんとほぼ同じ時刻に殺害され、岐阜の山中に遺棄されたと考えるのが妥当でしょうな。
Again, it's really interesting that they wanted Tomitake to be found, but they didn't want her to be found, or at least it's implied that.
どうしてわざわざ遠くの山まで死体を運んだんでしょう。富武さんも同じように遠くへ運べばよかったのに。
ありゃ。前原さん、あなた、なかなかどうして鋭いですね。もちろん、私もそこは注目すべき点だと思っていますよ。他にもいくつか不審点はありますが、まあ、現時点でお話しできるのは。
村長さんの方はどうですか？何か手がかりはありましたか？
Having exhausted that topic, I changed the subject, otherwise he might have turned the conversation on me.
失踪された一日の足取りを調べました。手がかりになるようなものは見つかりませんでしたが、一応お話ししましょうか。
See, the thing is, we need to find out if the last place he went, could it be anywhere nearby the shrine. The mayor, Kichiro Kimiyoshi. Apparently he was suffering from severe hemorrhoids. Oh, that sucks.
古い生まれの方って非常にプライドが高いんですよね。それで村長さん、誰にも内緒で鹿骨市内にある大学病院の肛門科に通われていたんです。
Gotcha.
失踪当日、村長さんは診察の予約が取ってあったんで、朝一で出かけられました。
Even I knew the big hospitals, like university hospitals, had a really long wait time. Apparently people who got in line for hours beforehand, even if they had an appointment.
診察が終わったのは午後1時頃です。
And that would suck, having an appointment, having to go 4 hours early.
その後、病院内のレストランで軽食を取られ、雑誌を読みながら時間を潰されました。このあたりのことは、自宅にあったお財布の中のレシートで分かってます。
There was nothing suspicious at all about that.
その日は夕方から神社の集会場で会合の予定があったんです。
Now, see, that's the thing. The assembly hall is on the shrine grounds.
それで余裕を持ってお帰りになるはずだったんですが、途中電車で人身事故がありましてね。どうもそれで足止めを食ってしまったらしく、家に着いたのは会合の時間の直前でした。ご家族が大慌てで神社の集会場に出かけていく村長さんを目撃しています。
会合ってのは何だったんですか？確か、その会合の帰り道に失踪してるんですよね。
Okay. So his delay at the train, I wonder if he'd been contacted by Shion. So he didn't, maybe he didn't miss the train. Maybe he got on a call with her and talked. That's when she confided in him. And he was running late, but he's like, I gotta get to that meeting. It's to try and protect her.
会合は御三家と町会の主要役員が集まってのものでした。今年も起こってしまった連続開始事件の対応について協議したものと思われます。
So then on his way home, the old man had treated Shion like his own daughter. He was a dependable person who would encourage Shion whenever she felt pressured by anxiety, and yet, Shion's painful voice struck me right in the heart. What?
あれ？
どうなさいました？
I was taken aback by how strange my own voice sounded. What was that? Just surprised me. I squeezed my head with my hands and tried to drag back out what I'd only just realized for a split second. Remember, Keiichi Maribara, you just realized something. Something important. The night of the Watanagashi, that was when everything started. The night Takano-san and Tomitake-san died. The next morning, word of the incident spread throughout Hinamizawa. They planned to talk about it during the evening meeting. The mayor, however, had an appointment at the hospital, and he went there without telling his family. He got a checkup at the hospital, ate something, and then there was an unexpected delay on his train ride back. It showed the picture of the diner. When he returned, the meeting was already about to start. The mayor changed clothes, got on his bicycle, and hurried to the assembly hall at the shrine as fast as he could. From where he heard about the incident on the night of Watanagashi until when he showed up at the assembly hall, everything he was doing that day was done in secret. During that time, nobody found out that he went to the hospital alone. He ate alone. And he got on the train alone. Wait. So, if that all happened like that, then when did he talk to Shion? He couldn't have. That all meant he had absolutely no contact with anyone else. He couldn't have even called him on his phone. Then how did Shion talk to him? Okay, but what does that mean, Keiichi Maribara? That means Shion never talked to him. That means that never happened. Oh crap, was that actually Mion the whole time? She ordered the mayor to be taken out and then used that as a conversation point from, oh, fetch me, what? What does that matter, Keiichi Maribara?
ゆうちゃん、私、どうしよう。
どうした？話せよ。俺たちの間で隠し事はなしだろ？
私、君吉のおじいちゃんに打ち明けたんです。
Okay, hang on. So what if it was political? Getting rid of the mayor was just always part of the plan. They wanted to get rid of him, right? But then Mion pretends to be Shion and uses this to try and shut us up, to stop us from talking to people. Because the motivation being like, oh, you talk about this, you're gonna die, or the people you're gonna tell are gonna die, as a way to try and make him not talk about it and protect him, right? So Mion's trying to protect him. That's the whole point. I told him everything. I told old man Kimiyoshi everything.
村長さんに、私、あの晩、最後でに忍び込んだこと、誰かにそれを見られてて、私たちを狙っている人がいるって。
ああ、それで？
君吉のおじいちゃん、怒らなかった。そして、にっこり笑って、しおちゃんがちゃんと反省してるなら、鬼隠しになんかなるものかって。
If this wasn't Shion but Mion talking, this is her trying to, like, she's trying to tell him, like, if I was properly sorry, I wouldn't get demoned away.
本当に、笑いながら、任せなさい。
That implies that that was Mion. Sweat burst out of my body like bullets. They became one long strand and slid down from my forehead to my nose and fell. So then, what does that mean? Hey, Keiichi Maribara, no more playing dumb. When did she tell him? Shion said she learned from the incident from the phone call her father had made that morning. The mayor had left the house first thing in the morning at his appointment at the hospital. He didn't tell anyone where he was going. Nobody knew about him going to the university hospital. Furthermore, his train ride back to the house had been delayed by an accident. As soon as he got home, he rushed out to the assembly hall. The meeting at the assembly hall began and continued until it was dark out. Then everyone left. Nobody saw him after the meeting was over. He just disappeared. Which meant... Come on, boy! Come on, boy! Put it together! It means that Shion never talked to him! It means that that wasn't Shion you were talking to! Holy crap, Shion might already be gone! Oh no! Oh, fetch!
大丈夫ですか？やっぱり暑いならクーラー入れますよ。
After part of me was messing with my thoughts, demanding that I didn't think any further about that. My head was pounding violently, the fluids packed inside it all blended together until nothing made sense. I was just about to settle, it had to be smashed and melted in a blink of an eye, no longer able to retain its shape.
前原さん。
It's not that hard!
もしもし？
はい。
Ooishi-san lit another cigarette. There was yet another cigarette butt placed in the ashtray. Was it displaying the passage of time? Had my thoughts been frozen over for that long?
私、知ってる限りのことを話したつもりです。お返しに、今度は前原さんの話を聞かせてもらってもいいですよね。
Now, funny enough, for the investigation, it would be really helpful for him to say, "Hey, I talked to Shion on the phone. She said that she talked to him that day," because that would be an inconsistency. My mind had become a gigantic oozing mess. My brain felt like it had been totally minced by the blades of a blender, and I couldn't think.
ほらほら、また黙り込む。もし誤解があるようなら先に解いておきたいんですがね。
The only place I could think where Shion could have talked to him is when he went to go eat. If he went and ate at the diner that Shion works at, then that conversation could have happened. But it would be odd for her to talk to him like that in such a public setting.
私は別にあなたが犯人だなんて思っちゃいないんです。
Ooishi-san gave his best attempt at an adult smile.
あの晩、あなたたち4人が 西宮殿に忍び込んだことは知っています。
The thing is, like, if he knows that, so many other people must know.
次の日にはもう村の知る人は誰でも知る噂になってましたからね。
Oh, fetch.
それ自体は不法侵入として問われるべきことですが、そこで何があったかなんです。忍び込んだ人間が次々と犠牲になるような何があったのか。
何もなかったです。
As soon as I said it, I regretted confirming my presence there, but I knew it didn't matter anymore.
本当に何もなかったんですか？だって、現にこうして中に入った人たちが次々と犠牲になってるんですよ。しかも、扉の鍵を付け替えた村長や、リカさんまで犠牲に。
Hey, hon, you're saying that like it's a fact? Why are you saying it like it's a fact?
それだけの事態を引き起こす何があの中にあったんです。
I was far too tired to keep quiet about this. Perhaps that was Ooishi-san's goal all along, but again, it didn't matter anymore.
大昔に使った拷問道具がたくさんしまってありました。それを高野さんたちと見て回りました。
本当にそれだけ？
本当に。
口封じをされるようなとんでもないものが隠してあったんじゃないですか？例えば、覚醒剤の山とか。
Interesting.
消しの秘密工場があったとか、あるいはソ連か中国あたりの拳銃が山ほど積まれていたと。
You know what he's fishing for here? He's fishing for a warrant. He needs just a hint that there could be something in there that would be worthy of getting a warrant. That's what he wants.
不審な木箱やコンテナが山積みされてませんでしたか？
There was nothing as exaggerated what Ooishi-san was hoping for, but I felt like in a way there were plenty of terrible things hidden in there. From the perspective of someone who viewed that storehouse as sacred, whether or not I thought I'd seen some crazy things didn't matter in the slightest. The four of us had broken the taboo. Punish us. That should have been what happened.
あの西宮殿に何か秘密があるんじゃないかと思って捜査令状を請求したんですがね。もう空前絶後の妨害工作がありまして、信仰の対象に対する侮辱であり、憲法で定めた信仰の自由をなんたらかんたら。
As someone pointed out in the last one where I talked about how like I thought it was interesting that they talked about how like the right of religion was super like prominent. Thank you for your comment in there because you kind of clarified. They said that like it's enshrined very heavily in the Constitution as one of the most protected rights. But the reason why religion doesn't come up very often is because like Japan doesn't have like a big unifying religion. It's not like there's not an enormous Christian backing or Buddhist backing or Shinto backing or anything. Mostly it's like smaller groups. And even then, like Buddhist religion, Shinto religion, Confucian religions, they often are very kind of condensed and like they don't have these broad things. Like it'll be practiced slightly differently in different areas. And so what you do is you get this place where it's heavily protected religious rights, but you don't have a lot of like conformity. And so it's a breeding ground for a lot of the cults, including some of the really dangerous cults that have propped up who become essentially terrorist cells in Japan. Like they reminded me about the gas attack. I can't remember what year it happened, but it was like they released like a really toxic gas that just killed a bunch of people at a subway station. It was from a religious cult in Japan, which is crazy.
いやもう、だから実際に入ったあなたに聞くほかはなかったんですよ。
本当に古い錆びて埃をかぶった拷問道具しかなかったです。他に目立つものなんて何もなかったです。
では、富武さんたちが殺されたのは、禁忌を破ったからという制裁だけなんですかね。
I didn't have an answer for the only part.
もう、いちいち隠しませんけどね。
Yeah.
あなただけが、今日まで被害を免れてるんです。
I was worried about that. What happened to Shion?
あなた以外は全員が消えたのに、あなただけが無事なんです。
Shion did vanish?
あなたが無事で、あなた以外が被害に遭う。それが知りたいんです。
There was something wrong with what Ooishi-san was saying. You alone? You alone? What?
ちょっと待ってください。あなただけがって、どういう意味ですか？
ですから、あなただけが最後の生き残りなんじゃないですか。
Did they find Shion?
西宮殿に忍び込んだコソ泥4人組の。
The only one left alive? Hold on. Shion was still...
あの晩に富武二郎さんと高野美代さんが死に、翌日、 園崎しおんさんが失踪しました。
She was already gone when she called. Oh my gosh, it was beyond.
あなただけが無事に今日までを過ごしてるんです。
Oh my gosh.
なぜあなただけなのか。私はそれが知りたいと言ってるんで
Okay,
す。
this is where I would tell him. I'd be like, no, I thought I talked to Shion last night.
シオンが失踪したって？そんなバカな！
I unintentionally raised my voice, but I didn't care about that. Tomataka-san died, Takara-san died, and Shion disappeared? When did she disappear? Was that the guy what was this guy talking about?
ありゃ？特にご存知だったとばかり。
そんなのは初めて聞いた。シオンが失踪した？いつ？
遡るとWatanagashiの次の日に失踪していたことになります。
But the when is really important. When that day? Going back a bit? Stop saying stuff I don't understand.
園崎しおんさんはその日の気分で親類の家を泊まり歩いたりしますので、所在不明が当たり前なんですよ。学校も気分一つでよく休みますしね。先生も困り果ててました。
そんなことは聞いてない。シオンはいつ失踪したかって聞いてるんだ。
Specifically.
ですからWatanagashiの次の日です。
The fluids in my body all reversed direction. I lost my sense of balance and everything I could see started to warp and twist out of shape. I simply couldn't endure it. Hang on. Shion had already disappeared. And then, that night, that phone call. Who was that? Who else could it be? She called me every night. She encouraged me. We vowed that we would do our best to live on and not be erased. Yet that should have been a phone call with Shion. Should have been a phone call with Shion.
学校は平気で休むし、それを自宅に知らせても取り合ってもらえないから、学校もいちいち電話しない。そんなこんなで。彼女が失踪したことに気づくのに、だいぶ時間がかかったんですよ。
So messed up! I felt a stabbing pain like needles were being pushed at every pore on my body. It started at the back and began spreading throughout the rest of me. When I had completely covered the surface of my skin, I began to worm its way inside my stomach as well.
ほら、覚えてませんか？Watanagashiの次の日に、私たち図書館でお会いしたでしょう。あの時、シオンさんもいましたよね。あれが最後の目撃なんです。あの後、彼女の所在は確認されてないんです。
そんなバカな。
The day Ooishi-san caught me, Shion bounded away, lying she needed to go to work. Didn't she call me that night?
エンジェルモートっていうファミレスのバイトですよね。あの日から無断欠勤です。今日に至るまで全てを無断欠勤してるんです。お店の人も連絡を取ろうにも取れず困りきってましたよ。
そんなバカな。
状況証拠だけですがね。図書館でお別れしてからバイト先に向かうまでこの間に失踪したと考えるのが妥当でしょうね。
Holy crap, that's a tiny window. Right after Shion ran away without me.
ご存知なかったみたいですね。なら、先に話せばもっと話が早かったかな？
Oh, don't you start that.
もう、これでご理解いただけたでしょ？あとは、あなただけなんです。あなただけが、西宮殿に忍び込んだ4人の生き残りなんです。
It couldn't be. It just couldn't be.
次に何か起こるとすれば、それは、あなたなんです。
Boy, that's a lot to tell a kid.
前原さん、どうかご理解を。
It can't be. Shion had already disappeared? That couldn't be. I talked to her the day before yesterday. I talked to her last night. She was going to call me again today. That was Shion on the phone. It was from Shion.
シオンさんはとっくに失踪してるんです。次はあなたなんですよ。
Then who was on the phone those past nights? Who was on the phone? It's me on, you idiot.
そんな。バカな。
Holy crap. Oh, that got real. Oh no. Fetch! I was worried about that too. I was like, what if it's not Shion? That was like nailed on the head. Okay, we're gonna stop here. I imagine this night's gonna be interesting because we're probably gonna get a call from Shion. And what is he gonna do? Can he keep his cool and hold a conversation, try and gather information? Or is he going to break and challenge her? And then we're going to hear Mion be like, well, fine, I guess the gig's up now. And she's going to like, you shut up and don't say anything and you'll be fine. That's all. Oh, okay. We're done. My brain is exploding because that's insane and horrifying on so many levels. Okay. So now the biggest hole we have in the story so far is why did Rika-chan and Sokuna, why did they leave? Why are they gone? Like, why were they caught up in this mess? Is it because Rika was told? And like, because if Mion's trying to protect Keiichi and Rika was about to tattle that he was the one who was there, maybe she tried to get rid of her. Like if Mion's gone mad, like completely bonkers. I mean, she's basically, it sounds like she's killed her sister. She may have like not personally liked the mayor and he'd resisted like her actions. And so maybe she got rid of him out of a political blunder. And then, but now she's like eliminating anybody who just knows stuff. Maybe she's inadvertently trying to protect Keiichi. And in doing so, she's just taking out people around. Fetch. Because she did say that, right? She promised. She said, like, I'll make sure you'll be okay. It's like, she might have just gone completely mad. She might be completely mad at this point. Like, as in crazy. Holy crap. So no spoilers. But, oh no. Oh, that's real bad. Oh, no. I feel like the dread and like the crushing I felt in the first chapter was more intense than this one, but this is very like oppressive. It's like last time I felt like we were being smothered. This time it feels like we're like imagine like walking into a room and you flick on a light and you're surrounded by corpses of people around, like you're like of people you know. And like you watch somebody else walk into the room and immediately get like just taken out. No idea why, they just are. But for some reason you're okay and you're standing in the middle of the room. That's what this feels like. It will almost be more horrifying because it'd be like, why am I just here? And why is everyone else around me getting blasted? Like, why is everyone else being taken out, but I'm still here? There's kind of a horror to that, the lone survivor horror. Like, there's something to it. It's like, it's a weird one because like it stops feeling like a boo and it starts feeling like a jinx. Like, instead of seeing it as like, oh, I have a lot of luck, I just managed to survive really rough situations, it starts turning into like, do I just bring death to everyone around me? Will everyone I care about be taken from me? Like, that's probably what he's going to start feeling like. That's where he's going to start breaking. Holy cow. And it's already started too. Okay. We're done for now. Thank you so much for being here today. There's a lot to think about here. We're going to have to chew on this one for a while and we'll finish the chapter next time. So I guess we'll have to buckle up and see how we go. But thank you so much for being a part of this episode today. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed watching my reactions as I watched the entire world start to fall apart around us. And I look forward to hearing your thoughts on this. But until then, we'll have to talk about it next time. So thank you so much. And until next video, watching me, or see me in next. I'll see you there.